We are good to go. I think there may be a few other people coming on. At least that's what I'm told by messages a few minutes ago. And Pasquale, who was on earlier in the week, actually on Monday morning, his family dog passed away. So unfortunately, life happens, and there's a whole series of things that go on with that. Betty's here now. So, okay. Well, welcome to everybody, and you can all see my screen, and we'll take it from there. Hold on a second. I'll move this up here. So we're into day three. This is 3 out of 5, obviously, and we've made a lot of progress in the last couple days. And I'm really curious as to how your homework went last night, and then what we're going to get into here today. So I will just scroll down on the slide here. Wait a second. So today is Power Moves, Networking Smarter and Landing Faster. This is where, and you can all comment accordingly, this is where job search gets to be occasionally difficult. And the reason it gets difficult is because anything that happens between you and me or you and somebody else that you're working with now all of a sudden is out into the real world. This is when you take your marketing plan and put it into a sales plan. And sometimes this is cold calling, sometimes this is warm calling, but either way, it can be a stumbling block if this is not a familiar or a comfortable exercise for you. So my goal and role here today is to make this as comfortable for you as possible and let you know that if we're working together, I'm with you every step of the way. Okay, so review of day 2, accomplishments. Anybody want to share what they were able to create in terms of listing your accomplishments? Welcome, Jacqueline. And I don't know if you're still on mute or not, but we're just getting off the ground, and I will catch up with you a little later on what day 1 and day 2 are all about. But today we're talking about outreach and networking, how to be more effective in terms of getting your new credentials in front of the right people. So anybody want to talk about what they went through in terms of accomplishments last night or even this morning or whatever it is that you happen to do them, what came up for you, et cetera, et cetera?
For one of mine real quick.
Yeah, go.
So for the description of this one, I worked on accomplishing key result areas within the fraternity. So for those of y'all who aren't familiar with it, our fraternity, I was president about a year and a half ago, and within the fraternity, you have specific goals that each chapter is supposed to achieve in order to be successful in the mind of our national organization. And so the circumstances would be we had not attempted to complete this set of goals for the chapter previously, and I saw a large opportunity to skyrocket in success. Um, the actions that I went on were working diligently to accomplish the philanthropic goals, meaning community service hours and donations, our chapter growth, which would be gaining members, and then our alumni engagement, how many alumni we're having to our alumni weekends, and donating and being on specific meetings, this, that, and the other. And then from our results, we ended up gaining the #1 rank out of all 217 plus other chapters. Not only did we achieve all of the goals, but we overachieved on a majority of all of them as well, which put us in the highest ranking chapter out of all of them. That was one of the things that I put on there.
This, by the way, for a current college student, soon to be graduate, is way at the top of the list. Okay. It probably outweighs any academic credential that you may have or any academic accomplishment you have because three things. Number one, you had to rally a whole bunch of other people to do what it is that you just mentioned in terms of reaching those goals. Number two, there were 216 other chapters that you were competing against, and you landed at #1. Okay, I've had people say, well, I was #1 in my territory. Well, how many people in your territory? Three. Well, that's not bad, but it's not 217. Okay, the third thing is that you put a plan of action together and you can specifically go into that if you're in an interview and say, Mr. or Ms. Interviewer, this is what we did. This is what I did with my team. And we had all these metrics that we were at here and we got to here. And we succeeded and over succeeded on all 7 of them. And I happen to be very familiar with exactly what you're saying because I'm part of the Alumni Association of my chapter. And this is terrific. Okay. It may not apply to anybody else on the call, but it's really good because it indicates all those things from a leadership standpoint, from a goal achievement standpoint, and from a rallying people into certain circumstances. And those situations are like, as somebody once said, herding cats. All right. So you being able to do that at a relatively young age is something that you can look back on and draw from at any point in your career. Okay. At any point in your career. So thank you for putting that out there and congratulations. And I also know, and I won't say anything specific, that your chapter was going through some really, really difficult circumstances based on one bad apple. And the way you
Yes, sir.
handled that was exemplary as well. And you didn't even mention it. Okay. So, by the way, we had this going on and we still finished number one out of 217. Okay. So, congratulations on that. Anybody
Thank you.
else?
Yeah, I'll just mention, can you hear me?
Yes. We could see you if you took yourself, took that red line off video, but go ahead.
Are you suggesting? Okay, here we are.
I'm recommending, yes. Go ahead.
All right, so I'm trying to reinvent myself. So I just came up with these things that I had at work. I was a charity fundraiser
Okay.
for Amazon Watch. So that it's basically we raised a ton of money. And then actually I was a Eucharistic minister with when my father was in a nursing home. So the results were spiritual enhancement. So they kind of go together, right? You're trying to do good. And the third thing is a product educator. So if there is a new product that is created, a dietary supplement product, then I would be the one to educate the sales team as to the benefits of these products so that they can go out there and sell and make millions of dollars. So I'm trying to reinvent myself, and I'm trying to bring in like aspects that are charitable, evangelical, and educational.
All good. Here's one recommendation. Put a comma after each of the things you just said, and then put the phrase resulting in blank, especially the one about the dietary supplements, where you are coaching, let's say, or training the sales force, and the resulting sales or the sales team resulted in X amount in the first 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, whatever it might be.
Millions.
Okay, well, this is a number, a real number is good. Okay, is advisable. Okay. Scott was just saying we were number one out of 217, and he knows all the other metrics that go along with it. The one you were talking about related to being a Eucharistic minister is great. You served 47 people every weekend. I'm making it up.
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay.
They're 40, 50. Mm-hmm.
Okay. But a number in any of those circumstances or any of those results will be far more convincing, believable, and will put it into a context that anybody can understand. And this is for everybody here. Anytime that you can use dollars, percentages, actual numbers, you create a circumstance that people can wrap their arms around.
It's an understandable story then.
It's not just understandable, it's comparable.
Okay.
Okay, and thanks. Thanks, Irina.
Sure. Thank you.
Yasmin, Chris, Betty, James. I almost can't let Betty be silent. I don't know if she's on the call or not.
I can go.
Go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
Bill, you and I have done this exercise for my previous job. So, transitioning into my current role. So my accomplishment, let me pull it up. Where'd it go? My accomplishment is I helped transition 100% of the company to use all file sharing in a digital format using SharePoint through Microsoft.
Nice.
So now everything lives online.
Mhm.
The circumstance, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, the circumstance was the company was using old and outdated technology, but priding themselves on being um, up to current standards.
Mhm.
So the action was to transition. I report directly to the president. So being responsible for supporting the creative strategy and the internal brand was to transition to an online digital world that we live in now.
Okay. And the I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. That's certainly a time saving, money saving, effort saving accomplishment. Is there any way that you can measure it? And I'll give you some examples. I had a client probably 4 years ago who did a similar efficiency type of reorganization of company processes and backup systems. Ultimately, we estimated conservatively that it was saving somewhere between 4 and 8 hours per employee per week, which turned out to be a huge number. And when she presented it to her management team, they didn't argue with the number. They thought it was appropriate. Okay, so everything that you just said is totally on point. If we can put a number around it, or even an estimated number. I've
Sure.
said I've had conversations with people about their accomplishments that go like this. I don't know what the number was. I said, well, if somebody had a gun to your head, could you say it was at least 10%? Oh yeah. Was it at least 20%? I'm not sure. Well, we'll say 10 or 12. And I'm not trying to just throw a random number generator out there, but I'm just trying to say, give yourself credit where it's actually due. And like what you just described sounds like, oh, that's like the latest model of Ford Mustang. Okay, but what difference did it make to your organization? And I'm sure it's a lot. I just don't know what a lot is.
Yeah. And the result of that, I had pretty much what you said. This helped save the company money, in turn, reallocate resources, using them elsewhere, and increase our service levels to our stakeholders. So,
That's
from
there you go.
from a design standpoint, we I mean, I would, and I still do. I'm still in the process of cleaning some stuff up, but going on a half hour manhunt to find a file when now um, I know exactly where it's at. So you're
Oh,
saving. If I
so-
had to put a number on it, I would say 10%, maybe probably more.
well, let's back up for a second. When you have an urgent client job that you get on Wednesday at 3 o'clock, if you have to spend a half an hour and it's due tomorrow at noon, Thursday, you have to spend a half an hour trying to find a file that you know already exists. That's a half an hour you can't use toward the project. So
Exactly.
there's the crunch time aspect of everything that you just described as well. So there are qualitative accomplishments. They don't all have to have numbers, but yours lends itself to some kind of a number, and I don't know what that means. And for anybody who's been doing this for whatever period of time, some of you have with me, some not, these accomplishments become like the brick by brick story about how you've made a difference. And then they build up to the summary statement at the top of the resume that we were talking about yesterday. And they build up to the, not only does this person say that he or she can add value, these are the ways that it's being described, and these are really meaningful to me. I'm the interviewer now. I'm the hiring manager. Okay. So, and Yasmin, I'm sure you're going to appreciate what Chris just said about making things more efficient. She is in an industrial engineering program, and process efficiency is way at the top of the list, mostly in the manufacturing environment, but many others as well. And I have a similar background, so that's how we've got to know each other. James, anything you want to, James or Betty?
Hi, I can't locate my homework. Can you tell me the bullet points so I can go point by point? I did it, but I can't locate it for some reason.
I will. I actually don't have that presentation up. I should have had it up, but it's basically
Right.
your accomplishments.
Okay, are we talking career accomplishments or outside of career
Either,
accomplishments?
either.
Oh God. Okay. Career accomplishment, launched the most successful drug in pediatric history from my pharmaceutical background and managed
Hmm.
an $18 million territory and became number one salesperson a launch year.
Hmm.
And had a successful career for 12 and a half years and won various awards and managed, representatives indirectly.
Okay. And is there one from what you would call outside your career,
Right.
avocational?
So yes, my philanthropic activities. Um, oh, okay. Uh, Being an advocate for my culture. So obviously being one of the organizers of Persian Parade, self-taught media relations and government affairs,
Hmm.
and got media coverage for the parade on NBC, CBS, New York
Hmm.
One, and NBC and Fox. I
Hmm.
just recently I did, I produced two segments for Fox. Plus, I also am in the process of establishing a legacy for Gracie Mansion. I don't know how many of you are in New York, but that's our White House. That's the mayor's residence. So the Persian New Year's first day of spring, and I established that so far 3 years in a row to be celebrated just like other prominent holidays like the Christian Christmas and the Jewish Hanukkah.
Cool. See, all of you are really good at what you've done. Okay. My job is to be your personal ad agency and make sure it's communicated properly. That's it. I can't do a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing I could potentially do, but not nearly as effectively as you have. Again, my role isn't to be able to repeat what you've done, it's to be able to communicate about it. Okay. James, you want to jump in? I think I can hear him, but I'm not sure he's there. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Yes.
Just jump in with what your accomplishments were all about, if you had any more than the ones that we've worked on recently, or if you want to just
Uh,
talk about one or two.
this week I learned that my customer satisfaction is like second among like 68 agents,
Okay.
and so I'm getting closer to be top agent among supervisors at my company, and then also my closure rate is like the highest of any other supervisor. By closure, it's like we get escalated complaints, and then whenever a customer asks to speak to somebody higher, we have to like basically negotiate that there is nobody else higher. The policy is what it is,
Hmm.
and then you have to just stand firm. So like tomorrow, I'm gonna be able to shadow other agents that are not doing as good to help them realize like they have to close these complaints because it doesn't benefit anyone to allow the expectation to go on past. Like we're supposed to be the last call.
Understood.
So I had a really good performance review today.
Congratulations. And if they're not only realizing that you're the number two agent out of 68 based on your metrics, and they are now utilizing your success to train others, that's another accomplishment
Yes,
in and
sir.
of itself. All right.
Yes, sir.
Trained X number of how many ever you end up training in the coming days or weeks, or maybe already you have. These are all very, very relevant. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Cool. All
And thank
right.
you for teaching me that.
Well, this is part of the program. I mean, this is part of why everybody is here, is to learn how to properly market and sell oneself in a competitive marketplace. And all you got the goods. That isn't the issue. It's just, again, a matter of communicating in a way that's going to be meaningful for prospective hiring managers, recruiters, HR teams, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Um, Anyone else? I think that was it. Jacqueline, I know you're coming in on the back end of this. We've had 2 days here, which I will catch you up on, but we're speaking about what have your accomplishments been, circumstances, actions, results, and how do they impact the organization that any of these folks have been working for. And this is something that you and I can talk about separately. Not sure if you're hearing me or not. Either raise your hand or you can chime in, take yourself off mute. Okay, so let's get to what today is all about. And thanks for your diligence in doing the homework. It benefits you more than it does me, but it's refreshing to hear that you tackled it and made it work. Okay, so now that we have your accomplishments, now that we have your value proposition, now that we don't yet, but a resume, LinkedIn profile, and this is the kind of thing that we would be working on going forward. How do you get these new credentials in front of as many of the right people as possible? So the first thing is, what's your target? How do you reach them? What's the best approach? And all I can say is it's not clicking all the online applications on LinkedIn, Monster, Indeed, et cetera, and all these job boards, and then saying, okay, I have applied for a job. And you have, but you've effectively thrown your credentials into the black hole. It's just the way it is. The response rates are 0.5% to 1%. And I think I mentioned this before, but I'll mention it later as well. So your approach includes online databases, LinkedIn profile searches, and then networking for advice. And this is really, the third one here is really the most important out of all of them, because when you do it properly with people who can be your advocates, you're going to win. And getting organized as part of that is a big part of this too. So going back to my somewhat elementary baseball field drawing here, we are now at first base, attempting to get to second base, which we will by the end of the evening. So again, oops, I already had that slide in, so I repeated myself. Sorry about that. And wait a second, I'm going the wrong way. That's what it is. Okay, I'm just pressing the wrong arrow. So the working world looks like this. And I found this slide several years ago, but the ratios are still pretty common. If you look at 7 billion people in the world, 2 billion are too young to work. 1.5 billion, believe it or not, are still in agriculture, 800 million in industrial jobs. We're talking more about where these circles are, either entrepreneurs or the 1.7 billion that work in service type positions. Okay, so just giving you some perspective on what the market around the world looks like. This I found to be a very fascinating and what I would call accurate chart. Hold on a second. Somebody else is trying to get in here, and I may have to. Okay. This is baby boomers, Gen X, and millennials. Okay, we don't have Gen Z in here yet, but we will shortly. But notice how the survey based on 1,200 workers across different generations measuring their strengths and weaknesses. Baby boomers, really good at executive presence. They should be. They've been around for a while. Not so good at tech savviness, 4%. If you can see that over in the bottom left of those charts. Relationship building, Gen X, terrific at it. Problem solving, same. Collaboration, same. There are a lot of things that people can learn from those in different generations, and frankly, we're covering most of them, on this call as well. So marketing and sales of outreach is really grading yourself, similar kind of metrics that we're talking about related to your accomplishments, is how effective are you at getting your credentials in front of all these people, hiring managers, recruiters, networking groups, nonprofit associations, if it's relevant, social media groups, alumni associations from your college or grad school, trade associations in the field that you work with, and importantly, those in your network. We're going to get into some detail on that as well. Are you in the right geography or remote, or why is or are the roles you're looking for a good fit? Constantly ask yourself that. You can get on LinkedIn and you can apply for probably 50 jobs an hour if you're quick. But that doesn't mean they're a fit. That doesn't mean that you've gotten in front of somebody who's going to realize who you are. And it certainly doesn't mean that you're going to get to the top of the pile of all these applications that people are receiving. Because again, with LinkedIn, you just send your profile and it lines up with whatever it is that the open job is. Several years ago, there was an article in the New York Times where they interviewed 147 respondents over a 1-week time, and they had to report what they were doing every 10 minutes of the day. Most people spent an hour and a half or less on job search, which absolutely floored me. And these are people that were in transition. They were not working full time. So I'm going to ask all of you the question, if you have been in transition or if you've been between whatever, why might that be? Any thoughts?
Lack of direction.
That's definitely one of them. There were four main reasons. I'll see if we can come up with them. Go ahead.
Lack of motivation, probably.
Motivation slash discipline is the second one.
Lazy.
They live at home with their parents.
They probably figured out don't need to apply for hundreds of jobs to be found. That's kind of a subset of the fourth one, Jacqueline. Anybody else?
Lazy.
That was similar to what Scott said. The biggest reason was fear of rejection.
Oh my gosh, that's
Okay.
ridiculous.
Believe it or not. And the other one was they were busy catching up on life events that they had put off to the side when they were working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Okay, so there was a whole combination of motivations that go in there, and the human mind works in pretty unbelievable ways sometimes. But I just found this to be very, very interesting because I was also going to say burnout. Yes, Jacqueline, there is a recovery time, and I've worked with several clients who've needed a month, 2 months, one woman 6 months, literally, to get her health back, to feel like she was getting up in the morning with some energy, because it's not worth getting in front of anybody if your energy is no good. Um, I don't want to say sit and do nothing, but definitely rehab yourself in whatever way that means. That's going to be very beneficial to you throughout any type of job search activity. Okay, so proper time allocation. Let's say you're going to spend, my recommendation is 30 solid hours of job search, because it can be emotionally, mentally, and occasionally physically exhausting. But when you're spending your time, after you've done your resume and your LinkedIn profile and you've established what kind of industries you want to be in or what companies you're going after, recognize the following. Only 20 to 25% of jobs are found with posted ads. And this goes back to when posted ads used to be the New York Times classified section on Sunday afternoon or morning. And job boards are like Grand Central Station at rush hour. It used to be that people would get, 6, 8, 10, 20 applications or whatever. Now they can get hundreds. Hiring companies are completely swamped, a lot of times with very irrelevant resumes that aren't even qualified. And you're only going to get a 0.5, 0.5% to a 1% response rate. So think about that. 1 out of 100, 1 out of 200. Unless you're in a remarkably good, high demand industry and you have a very, very tight skill set, that ratio is pretty accurate. So we're talking about buying a lottery ticket. Recruiters handle 5 to 10% of placements. The other 70 to 80% of placements are due to the networking capabilities of the hiring manager or the company, the candidates, and intermediaries. And I'll call them advocates. And I'll give you a really good example of an advocate, a guy I used to play basketball with in New Jersey. Chris, go ahead if you're raising your hand, you have a comment.
No, go ahead, finish, and then
Yep, I'll make it quick. He was in the insurance industry, commuting from New Jersey to Manhattan, an hour 15 to an hour and a half one way every day for 20 years. A former colleague said, Jeff, we need to get together for a drink around the holidays. So they did. They talked about family, the old company they worked with. And then Jeff's friend said to him, hey, the real reason I called you here is there's a company in Livingston, New Jersey that's looking for a guy that's like you and me. And I interviewed with them, but I got a promotion during the interview process. I didn't think that it was the right time for me to move. But the first person I thought of is you. And Jeff looked at him and said, 20 minutes? I'm interested. So the person who referred him was not even a member of the company. And he referred Jeff, and 4 weeks later, he was in the vice president's chair. So you never know where your advocates are going to come from, how they're going to come through for you, and what it is that they can do in terms of who they know. It isn't so much that you know them, it's who they know. So Chris, go ahead.
so this slide is pretty much why I'm sitting in here right now. And if I pulled up the jobs that I've applied to in the past year, I think it would be a super high number.
Hmm.
Everyone would be, it's alarming, to say the least. My question, Bill, is so is there by law that, so say in for LinkedIn, that companies have to post a job no matter what, even if they have an internal position filled, do they by law need to post that job on LinkedIn and Indeed or just in general?
Here's what happens. The answer is sometimes.
Okay.
Certainly government jobs and municipalities, but there's more nepotism involved in some of those situations, even more than the private sector. I have observed. The answer is sometimes because they do it to, let's call it, manage their EEOC internal requirements. By law, they can hire anybody they want, especially in right to work states. But here's what happens. Usually the only time they do post it is either for the first reason I was just talking about, or the second reason is they've exhausted their internal options and there isn't a network that has the right person that's qualified. So I don't want to say it's a last resort, but it's not the first resort. All right. So you get several situations. I hear this all the time from clients. Well, I applied for this job and then I looked the next day and it wasn't there. And then 2 weeks later, it is there again. They interviewed some people. They didn't like them, so they posted again.
Yeah.
Again, the goal here is anytime you're interviewing for a position with company A, B, or C, you need to know somebody in company A, connect with them on LinkedIn through a connection that you both have mutually in common, or some other way to get in the side door. If you can get in the side door, you're going to have to do the electronic application at some point anyway. You're going to have to upload your resume. You're going to have to answer a few questions, and you may even have to answer some video questions as a quote unquote screener. But that counts as part of the 0.5 to 1%. Like if you get a response like that, then you're in the game. So the answer is circle the wagons in the best way that you can. Another quick story about a guy I was presenting at a networking group in Princeton. They meet every Friday. And protocol was that if you found a job or a consulting gig, that you would bring treats or donuts in for everybody else. And the guy was 2 seats away from me and he stood up and he said, I spoke with 23 people before I met to the hiring manager. I went through 4 layers on one group and 2 on another, and whatever it was, 23 people. By the time he had gotten to the hiring manager, 4 other people had spoken to the hiring manager about this one guy. The interview was less than half an hour. Okay. Circling the wagons with people who are competent, believable advocates is always going to be in your favor. Okay. And I'll give you an example. I interviewed with Novartis Consumer Health based on the recommendation of a neighbor and a former colleague who was the director of packaging. And they were looking for somebody for a new product development role in several different categories. And she recommended me, and I went in and I interviewed with Jose Rodriguez, the vice president of the division, for 23 minutes. And I started the following Monday. Okay. Now, I wasn't a full-time position, it was a consulting role, but the pay was real money. Okay. So the point is that the people who are advocates, and this is going to be part of your homework tonight, is to list 25 people who you believe could be supportive and helpful. And I don't mean to say, hey, listen, oh, I have a job in my department. That's not what I mean. I mean people who are connected within the industry that you're interested in or within the company that you're interested in. 25 people. And even folks like Scott and Yasmin can go through their cell phones and find 25 people who could help with their job search. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts, questions on this particular slide? All right. Go ahead. Was that a question or was it just a?
I do have another question. I'm trying to
Go ahead.
It's more like LinkedIn based. So it's not so much. I think the hard part is getting to, so in my case, it's not so much the interview, it's getting to the interview, which kind of
100%.
leads back to what you were saying. So
Right.
getting into the side door, there have been, I try and if I apply to a job and I have a connection to that company, to reach out to the recruiter if I can, or someone that's just affiliated with the company that can push my resume to the right person. That
Yes and yes
doesn't
and
always
yes.
happen.
Yeah, okay. Yes and yes. And the answer is every situation is different. And this is the type of thing that I work on with clients all the time. How do we manage strategically what the situation is? How well do you know the person? How far can you push their button, if you will, in terms of supporting you? Are they willing to introduce you to other people within the organization or within the industry or whatever? And this is again, individual clients know this better than I do, but I always ask the question. And, like Wayne Gretzky said, you will miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So this is a similar exercise. And when we get to outreach in terms of what's it going to mean and what are the metrics associated with this, you'll see what I'm saying. Okay, now let me get back to this. So develop clear target lists, reach out to former associates and ask for advice and not help. If you're asking for help, people don't want to throw you a life preserver. If you ask for advice, you've put them on a pedestal, and I have a drawn out script that has been extremely successful with this for a number of years. I won't divulge it here, but it's basically if you're asking for help, you're saying there, I need a job. But if you're asking for their advice, it's a whole different context of the conversation. Target companies and industries. There are several databases that are out there. JerseyClicks.org. You have to have a New Jersey library card, which I used for years. There's another one that I found recently called onet.org. That's very good. Dun & Bradstreet are always good. Moody's are always good. Your local library will provide you with more than enough information. In the last couple of months, I've been using ChatGPT to determine by industry, by geography, and by size of company, which companies fall in it. The combination of these will give you the list that you're looking for. And your target summary sheet will include your functional area of expertise, the level or title that you want to come in, geography if it matters, in some cases it does not, industries, and this is something that you're going to use as an opener with your networking contacts. And this is a very watered down version of a summary sheet that I work on with every one of my clients. And the more precise you are about it, the more outcomes or the more positive outcomes you're going to get related to it. Okay, so it's a very simple Word document, but I'm going to leave it up just for a second. But this is the kind of information that when you speak with a friend or a colleague or somebody that you've worked with as a former boss or vendor or client, you show them this and say, hey, listen, love to get your advice on people you know in these industries or companies. Okay, outreach list. Start with 10 to 25 people who can help your search. I'm going to just call it 25. And you can take a screenshot of this because it's going to be the homework. I don't think I have a slide at the end of this that says quote unquote homework. Former bosses, colleagues, vendors, customers, committee members are at the top of the list. And there are several others here that I'm going to get into, but those are the people who know you professionally, who've worked with you, and who can vouch for the fact that you've done A, B, C, D, or E. Others for your outreach list, alumni associations can be incredibly powerful. If you went to a school like Harvard, and there's a lot of other schools that have very, very active alumni associations and are very much in the process of looking out for other alumni. Colleagues and officers of different organizations, family and friends, especially if you're a college student, parents of children's friends. I'm sorry, if you're an adult, parent of children's friends, or parent of parents' friends. Neighbors and social acquaintances. I've worked with more than one client who has found a viable position working on a nonprofit project and met some colleagues and had an offline conversation and it turned into something very positive. Members of your church, temple, or mosque, professionals, doctors, dentists, lawyers, accountants. Okay, these would be called second tier. The first tier is what was on the first page there, but these are all valuable. And you can probably come up with several hundred people who would fall into this category of those who'd be able to support you. What I have found is that when you do an outreach to people on this list or on the list that I was just describing, somewhere between 2 and 4 out of 10 will become what I would call home runs, or maybe not even home runs, just a double off the wall or a solid contact. And what that means is they know other people in the industry or the company and they're willing to introduce you. They may have something going on in their company that they can refer you to, or they're in a situation where directly, oh, are you available? Chris, you're open. You're open now? Okay. And it lands. Somewhere between 6 and 8 out of 10 will not be what I would call good contacts, using the definition I just gave you. So don't take that personally. Okay. It's just part of the program. It's like every no is a step toward yes. Again, ask for advice, not help. Hello, Chris. We've known each other for a long time, and I've always respected your opinions and your perspective. I would love to hear your advice about a number of career options I'm considering. Do you have time for a coffee or a Zoom call this week? You can reach out directly to somebody by phone, or you can even leave a voicemail. A text can work. LinkedIn, maybe, maybe not. Okay, that's a little less personal, but you want to be putting them in the situation where they are the advisor and they're providing you advice on what you're looking for. As far as networking is concerned, the most important thing about it is your attitude. If you happen to get a hold of, you're trying to reach somebody in an executive location and you happen to get their assistant who's a gatekeeper who doesn't want to let you in, being positive with that person is always going to be a benefit, because that person is just as important as everybody else in the process. Don't pre-qualify people in your network. The reason is this: you do not know who they know. If you have too much pride, you don't want to ask for support or advice, we could be sitting here in 6 months or a year having the same conversation. Okay, there's a level of humility that goes along with this, but it's not just humility to be, meek and mild about it. It's just saying, hey, I'm in a situation where your advice is really going to help me. A pedestal for you or for them. If you happen to be speaking to the former president of a major pharmaceutical company, but you know that person in a social way, just because they've had that position doesn't mean that they have any more of a pedestal than you might if you had that position at another time. Discipline and organization. The hardest thing is to keep track of all the balls you might have in the air. So find out a method, and there are several online apps that you can use that will keep you organized. Hesitation. And again, hesitation is procrastination, it's fear of rejection, it's a whole bunch of other things that I don't have time to get into. What may be holding you back? Because most people I have found, and I can say this on a personal level as well, are glad to hear from you. Unless you absolutely hated the person and didn't get along with them at all, most people want to know what's going on, and they'll be happy to tell you as well. Okay, working with recruiters. I happen to have been placed 5 times in my career by a recruiter. One recruiter replaced me twice consecutively. They are really, really good when you're on their good list. They can be your biggest advocate or your biggest pain in the butt. Contingency, and I'm just saying this, probably many of you already know this, contingency search is paid by the company only when they fill a position. They're looking to fill the role. They may or may not be having your best interest in mind. Retained search is a highly preferred animal in this whole conversation. They're usually paid in 3 milestones: at the start of the agreement, after 2 or 3 months, or when 3 to 5 candidates are approved as part of the interview slate, and then when the search is completed, meaning that person is hired. Usually there's a 60 or 90-day quote unquote probation period before the third part of the fee goes there. These people can be paid a huge amount of your money, from a third to a half, sometimes more than that, of your first year's salary. So it's like a real estate transaction. Thorough search for the best, most qualified candidates. Usually this happens on positions that are $100,000 or more. The recruiter search process, I'm not going to go into it in great detail, but they will figure out how they're going to find people. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile that has the keyword phrases that recruiters and hiring managers are looking for, P.S. recruiters pay a significant monthly fee to be able to do what I'm about to tell you, which is put 7 to 10, maybe more keyword phrases in and say to LinkedIn, find me people who fit. You're either a hit or a miss. If you have the right keyword phrases in your LinkedIn profile, either as part of your experience or in your about section, you're going to be a hit. Several clients that I've worked with have had LinkedIn upgrades after we've worked on them, and then all of a sudden the calls are coming in, or at least the contacts, like connections, through LinkedIn messaging. So they'll review the current files and previous search assignments and see if they have people in their own database. But LinkedIn is so effective at this right now that that's primarily what recruiters will do, especially executive level recruiters. And they will also help you, if they're worth anything, with negotiations. They will know what the real range is and the real level of responsibilities are related to the position and will work with you to negotiate the right offer. Okay. Optimum results from recruiters. Be clear about what you are looking for. I mean, there'll be times when you speak with recruiters just as an information conversation. Those will usually last literally 5 minutes. They don't want to spend any more time with you than that initially. They will later. Align your skills with their needs. Treat them professionally, even if they ghost you. It's not if these days, it's when they ghost you. It's unfortunate, but there's just not enough time in the day for people to get back to say, you know what, sorry, you didn't make the cut on this interview process. You'll find that out eventually, but either way, it's okay to follow up with them until they say stop or no. Find out as much as you can about the job, what the ideal candidate is, why they're looking. And this is any part of interview, and we're going to get into more of this tomorrow as well. The profiles of the people that you're going to be interviewing with, the salary, the length of time the position has been open, and any details you can find out about the organization. I have a client that's going to visit a major consumer product and pharmaceutical company in New Jersey tomorrow. He's been working on this now for about almost 4 weeks, was his first contact. We went through every part of the who's he going to be meeting with, what are going to be the relevant questions that you can speak to about them, and then use the initial advocate that he had to get in the door, if you will, before he sent his resume in, and use that person as your conduit for everything else that happens through the interview process. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. This may or may not be relevant for any of you online, but I've seen this work really well. It's called created opportunities. There are companies who don't know that they need what you can provide them. Figure out the needs of the organization, fill those needs with your solutions, either as a consultant, somebody on staff, or as part of a team. Created opportunities are this. There's an expansion of a company that happens to be here in Texas. There are 4 major companies that have relocated to the Austin area, put huge facilities. Tesla and a couple of the auto companies are 2 of them. When those relocations and expansions are happening, there are always openings. New plants, office leases, they've had an acquisition or a merger, or they've divested a company in one way or another. There may be private equity or capital offerings that are being publicized, and those often will have job openings alongside it. So new products, their product industry trends. You may have a specific set of skills that would be very, very influential in terms of increasing the revenue or the profit margins of certain companies. And you can promote that in the following way. Send literally an email or a US mail with your resume. I've selected your company as a potential client as a result of your dominant position or any other good reason. I'm requesting a few minutes of your time. If I'm granted this request, I'm confident you'll find it to be productive for any upcoming projects you may be considering. This may sound like a bunch of noise. I promise you it works because people just don't send letters anymore. Somebody has to acknowledge a letter, and if you put personal and confidential down in the bottom left and you address it to a senior level person in an organization, you will get a response if it's professionally done. Another mantra for outreach: become the person who would attract the results that you seek. Jim Cathcart, he's done some great books and he has some great online videos as well. Okay. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and say, what is your moment as it relates to, I want to do something else with my career? What is your enough is enough moment? And I've had several of these. I'm going to highlight 2 of them. One of them was when I was working as a consultant with a market research company that ended up being bought out by Nielsen. I was commuting about an hour and a half a day using either a train and 2 subways or driving and parking on the Upper West Side of New York. And the owner of the company, what they did was great, but the owner was manic. There was no other way to say it. He would yell at people as close as I am to my laptop and then walk away. I mean, literally yell at the top of his lungs. I said, no mas, no mas. I did find another position after that. The second time was when I was in between, and I mentioned this earlier in the week, when I was in between jobs after the financial crisis hit in August of 2008, and the next real position that I had was in June of 2010. During the month of June, I started late June for the new company that I was working with, part of United Health Group. $20 went in and out of my checking account. I had a house, I had a car payment, I had all kinds of other stuff, but other people were handling it that month. I said, never, never again. And the other thing is, I went through outplacement and I said to myself, if I ever do this work again, if I ever do this kind of work as a coach or as a counselor for people who are looking for positions, I went through one of the large corporate outplacement companies, which was very, very disjointed at the best. I said, I will handle this in a much, much, much different way. So that's kind of 3 enough is enough moments. I don't know what yours are. And some of you may not have had a real enough is enough moment. I'm looking at you, Scott, and Yasmin particularly. You will, okay? You will. In one way or another, you will. It's the moment that spurs you on to much higher platforms. It's a moment that spurs you on to things that you didn't think you were capable of. It's one of those things. It's like when marathon runners talk about it, they hit the wall at mile 20 or 21 and they say, am I going to finish this race? And I've known several marathon runners. I've only run a half marathon. I have no desire to run a full one. Hitting the wall is not a bad thing if you have the perseverance, the mindset, and the discipline to push through it. So going back to this is, if you've seen enough in the last 3 days that you say, hey, listen, let's have a call about what this is going to mean. I have 2 more days of information that I want to share with you, and please be part of it. But any of you can pull that Calendly link up. And at one point in my tech career, I'm going to figure out how to make a QR code out of this. But right now I don't have that. Calendly.com /Bill Amaral, the number 7. Just set up a time and we can talk about what the program would be for you. I work with most people from start to finish, from what is your desired objective. And if we don't have one right away, we can figure that out. And if your objective is clear, then Chris, thank you. I will take you up on that. Then we go through value proposition, resume, LinkedIn profile. We go through outreach, and tomorrow we're going to do an extended session on interviewing and negotiating. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff as follow-up. It's kind of more motivational and everything else that's on Friday. So if this is something that you feel would be for you and that you would want to work together, I'd be honored to do that. I've worked with over 650 clients in the last 11 years, some of them more than once. And tomorrow I will show you a video of, I knew I wouldn't have enough time tonight, but tomorrow I'll show you a video of a recent client, and his testimonial will, at least be enough to give you an idea of how we created the results that he honestly couldn't have imagined when he called me on March 17th and said he got laid off. And 3 weeks later, he had a new position at a $50,000 salary increase. So with that, I want to add some levity to this conversation. This is something I found on the internet a couple of years ago. It says, application for employment. I refer to the recent death of the technical manager at your company and hereby apply for the replacement of the deceased manager. Each time I apply for a job, I get a reply that there is no vacancy, but in this case, I have caught you red-handed. And you have no excuse, because I even attended the funeral to be sure that he was truly dead and buried before applying. Attached to my letter is a copy of my CV and his death certificate. Okay, so I don't know if this is real or not, but I had the same reaction that Irina did when I first saw that. Okay, do what it takes to get the job. That may be a little over the line, but and it has a little bit of UK in it. It has a little British slant, and I don't know where it came from. I found it and I said, this is too good. So anyway, we're coming up on the hour here. Any thoughts, questions, observations, reactions, emotions, etc.?
This was good. Bill, because this whole the whole networking thing is like my Achilles heel. I hate it. I hate it. I feel like I'm pandering. I might as well just have a cup out with like, put some coins in here. So,
Right.
but this is helpful. It's helpful to understand that if you just go through the process of applying online, your chances are 1%. And
Right.
basically, the only way you're going to get out there is if you know somebody that's going to help you.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's not a negative thing. Okay. I guarantee you, everybody on this call has dozens, if not more, advocates that would say, oh, yeah, this guy, this woman was great to work with. They did this, 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 and this. I see it all the time. And you're in a circumstance, and I'm just saying in general, when you're in transition, you're in a circumstance of uncertainty. You're not sure what the future holds. You're not sure some days even what your next step might be. Again, that's where I, as the Sherpa, will take you up the mountain. Okay, knowing that there are going to be ups and downs before you get to the top of the mountain. But either way, people hire people. Okay, there are lots of AI bots out there that'll filter you, and so thank you. We got your resume. That, by the way, does not count as 1%. If they received your resume and they're replying to it, that's a courtesy that a bot will send. But it's not. It doesn't count yet. Um, it's let's put it this way. It's easy to describe and sometimes difficult to do. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you get at it, the more successes you have at it, the more momentum you have. It's like a snowball rolling downhill. And you'll start to get the interviews and the job offers that you're really looking for. And I am all about the result. Okay. All of the intermediary steps are fine and good, but it's all about the result. And my goal with anybody that I'm working with is the following: 2 or more viable jobs or new careers, new career options that happen somewhat simultaneously. The reason for that is twofold. Number one, it gives you some options. Do you like this company better or this particular job option better? Number two, it gives you some negotiating leverage. A woman that I was telling you about yesterday who had 3 offers in 4 weeks, she was able to significantly negotiate an increase in base salary with the company that she started with because she had the other 2 offers as points of reference. She never named the company to the one that she went with. She never named the other 2, but she said, listen, I have 2 other offers that are this and this. You got to beat it. I want to work with you. And she had the leverage to do it. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow night. And a bunch of other things related to interviews as well. So, okay, with that, any other thoughts, questions? Chris, I think you just sent me in the chat here. I need to open this while I'm
You should be able to save that. Just let me know that it works.
I'll just open it is what I'll do. And as long as it opens, I have to, never mind. As long as I have it so that it can open, I'll do it.
I can email it to you too, Bill.
That's fine. Okay. Appreciate it.
I
Go ahead.
emailed you one as well.
Okay.
Chris and I are thinking the same thing.
I'm not a complete tech twit, but I do need a hand once in a while, and I'm not afraid to say that either. So anyway,
No problem.
go ahead, Chris. You were going to say.
Would you say most of the people you work with get their jobs by networking versus just applying or any other way for that matter, word of mouth? I mean, what would you say the most successful way is?
Word of mouth is networking in its own way. Number one. Number two is all the above. I mean, I've worked with clients who have gotten jobs applying online blindly, and their credentials were so outstanding that it would have been stupid for the hiring company not to speak with them. That is not the majority. I do not have exact numbers on this, but I will say that I could quote you dozens of stories related to people who networked their way into an organization and then applied, or figured out that they wanted to apply and did because there was a deadline in the application, and then simultaneously in parallel went through the side door and found some people that were within the company. The gentleman that I was talking to you about who was laid off on March 14th, on March 12th or 13th, he sat in the same physician's office with somebody who ended up being his advocate for the new company. And what he didn't know how to do was strategically, quote unquote, work that networking contact in the appropriate way. And once we went through the whole process, and we did a lot of rehearsal on Zoom call before he then, picked up the phone and said, "Hey, call." He said, "Listen, you said you were expanding, like to speak with you." We had to fix his resume up and update it with all of his credentials and new accomplishments and blah, blah, blah. But once he got in the door, he then had 4 levels of interviews before he got the position. And they were actively looking for somebody for that role for a number of months. So, and he fit it perfectly. So it was a matter of being in the right place at the right time, but it was also a matter of doing the right things and being the right person. Like his way of being through the whole interview process was tremendous. And he ended up getting the gig, and he started April, I think 29th or whatever, a couple of weeks ago. He started and he's loving it. So okay. So Chris, I think is this the QR code that I can just copy this now or what?
Yeah, you should be able to save as. I think if you right click,
Okay.
save as, you could save it to your desktop. You could put it in
I
virtually.
just did a copy. So all right, if I can't figure it out, I'll reach out to you, but that looks like it's clear enough. So all right, well, thank you all for your participation and for keeping up with the quote unquote homework. I've tried to make it as doable and simple as I can. If we work together, there'll be some more complicated assignments, intentionally so, but you're getting a flavor of what this is all about. And going at it with the right attitude, with the right tools, and quote unquote the right equipment, you're going to be successful. And my role is to make you successful more quickly, efficiently, and effectively, meaning in terms of compensation and responsibility. And there you have it. Any other thoughts, comments? All right. Thanks all of you again, and we'll see you tomorrow at the same time to discuss interviewing and negotiating, my favorite part of the job search process. Okay. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
You got it.
Thank you.